James S. Cutsinger, professor of theology and religious thought at the University of South Carolina, gave a talk titled The Noble Lie. He led the audience through a dramatized dialogue between Socrates and a professor who has been asked to speak about metaphysical truths at a conference on tradition in the modern world. This approach illustrates Dr. Cutsinger's devotion to Socratic dialectic as an effective method that gradually reveals the layers of a complex philosophical question. In this excerpt, Socrates begins by summing up the conclusions that they have arrived at so far as they try to determine how a traditionalist teacher can instruct intelligent agnostic students on subtle spiritual truths.
You pointed out near the start of our conversation, Professor, that you've occasionally noted something akin to an esoteric vocation in a few bright agnostics. And your driving question has been how best to get through to such students, how to frame the traditionalist perspective in a way that accommodates, but also transforms and deepens their intuitions. Am I right so far? Perfectly so, Socrates. Well, we've seen, with Monsieur Schuon's help, have we not, that a first important part of the traditionalist strategy is to make a certain tactical use of the missing doctrine of Maya in divinis. Yes, we have. A second and closely related key to your work, or so at least I gathered from your reflections just now, consists in transposing the biblical descriptions of God into metaphysical terms so as to meet certain needs of causality, the needs of people who aren't yet believers and who may lack an affinity for a purely sentimental or obediential faith. Or did I misunderstand you? No, Master, this is what I said, and it's also what I believe. I believe it too, my friend. But now, do you believe this as well? That while these first two elements are doubtless necessary, they're insufficient and inoperative if not empowered by some third. I'll certainly try to believe it, Socrates, if you'd be so kind as to tell me what this third thing is. Again, I may be mistaken, Professor, but it appears to me traditionalist teachers like you need to do more for the skeptics in your midst than merely offering them a foreign doctrine, even one so exotic as to require two different languages. And I think you must do something more than just transposing or translating the doctrine of God from classical into quantum terms. If the students you're talking about are really esoterists, they'll already know in their very bones that no doctrine, no matter how esoteric, and no set of terms, no matter how subtle, can ever capture the supremely real. If you wish to serve effectively in the transmission of truth, you must find a truly adequate means. But if every doctrine is only error when confronted with the divine reality itself, it's very clear that these means can't be merely doctrinal. But what I'm not getting is what I'm supposed to do about it. Even esoterists need some doctrine, don't they? Of course, Professor. Everybody requires a finger to point him toward the moon. But if the young skeptics in your classes are more than just cynics, if their modern doubts and dissatisfactions really betoken the esoteric vocation you suspect, and their minds are such as to profit from traditional arguments of a higher order, they should feel no need to cling to that finger. They won't mind leaving the dry land of form and formulation and trusting themselves to be buoyed up by a truth they can't grasp with concepts. And your job, it seems to me, is to plunge in and swim with them, charitably undercutting their conventional supports, gently demolishing their hypotheses and yours, with a view to becoming as fluid as the dialectical medium in which you thus find yourselves. What you're telling me is that we traditionalists should concentrate on kindling the light of that spark your disciple Plato wrote about, whose speed is such as to warp the space between words and things, leaping as it does directly from soul to soul. History's most famous philosopher only smiled. By the grace of God, Socrates, I see this all very clearly. And yes, I believe it too, but I don't feel an inch closer to knowing what I'm supposed to do in that lecture of mine. So, why lecture, Professor? The master replied, and it was as if his whole body had begun to sparkle with the dancing light in his eye. Why not do what we've been doing here? Just have a dialogue.